All right, guys, we're gonna try a bubblegum video, but I'm gonna have a little bit of artillery here. All right, how about we talk about socialization? So obviously there's people that know me for socialization, and I've been known to socialize fruit flies. No, actually, I wanna teach you a little bit about socialization. So what actually is socialization? Well, my snake is friendly, my lizard's friendly. What that really means is the animal is tolerant, and when you interact with it, it is not expecting that it's a life or death experience. That is very, very important. Presentation to yourself, touching the animal, how you manage an animal over and over again, build what I call threads of trust. Threads of trust are little short experiences that get the animal's brain to actually record the event and realize nothing bad happened, and in fact, in many cases, something good happened. And reptiles are very tactile. So right off the bat, I have a beaded lizard. And this guy, so this is a venomous lizard. So this and Gila monsters are the only two known venomous lizards. So one of the first things I did when I was taking this guy out, I didn't want to take him out and put him on my stainless steel table so I looked really like, like I really know what I'm doing. First thing I did is I put a towel there because I know that this animal needs to feel very confident in its situation, how it's touching, and it can hang on to a towel, and it's really good. But if I put this on a surface where it's scratching and it's clinging, whatever, what I'm doing is I'm hiding its panic and its fear, if it's even feeling that. This is actually a wonderfully great animal, and there's ways to do this. So when I first touch this animal, very, very light. Can you see that? Just like that. There is no like sudden, like something abrupt. Nothing. So now I've got the animal kind of expecting what's going to be next. And, this is venomous, so we want to kind of be aware. But here's a wonderful animal. So what I'm doing here is I am managing the weight of the animal. And I'm not doing anything to really frighten this. Not a lot of movement. And some of our timers just shut off. So I'm just kind of letting this guy take it all in. This animal is incredibly inquisitive. So I know this animal very, very well, and normally if I was really worried, I'd kind of handle him like this with my fingers, like that. And so he's doing his little twist. Sometimes if he continues to do a little twist, I can go here, and now I've kind of slowed down where he's actually feel like he needs to go. So I go like this, and I go back and forth. But with this animal, you can do your hand flat, and there's really nothing if it were to want to bite you. So let me see some of the little babies. So here's some of our babies. And when these guys were born, they were horrible, out of the egg. So right off the bat, tell me what I just did that's potentially wrong. I've just introduced these two little guys to a nightmare, potentially. So the first thing is a visualization, seeing each other. So what I've done is I unknowingly, or just being not fully aware, I did something that can actually cause that animal to react, because it's a big animal. So water monitors are infamous. They'll look across the room, the slightest movement, you'll have this interaction with this animal, and all of a sudden the animal stops, freezes, and then bolts because something like a dog just ran by, scares it. These little guys, they're very socialized. And that is all about familiarity, and familiarity of being handled. Touching them, interacting with them, I can't even speak, interact with them, and what you do is you do supportive interactions where every time you're interacting with it, it's a good event. And if you push yourself too much on an animal, so I'm gonna just hold it until I just wear it down, actually what you're doing is you're doing actually a bad thread of trust. Because if that animal you're handling and it's terrorized and it feels like, oh my God, this is horrible, you're instilling fear into the animal, and the fight or flight response is gonna just hit the top. We want passive, so we do passive handling. And when I do passive handling, I'm not, restraining. What I'm doing is, if I'm doing passive handling, something like this, I'm making sure I'm not restraining this animal, but I'm also making sure I don't put anything, I don't want to get bit, in the way. So what I do is I kind of just go underneath. When they're little babies, when they are biting, you really have to handle them correctly. You want to make sure you don't get bit. But at this point, you can you can see it doesn't even really react, but I'm still being very, very wary. There is no, I don't want to put any digits where it can get you, but very, very sweet. But when they're first born, these were terrible. All right, I'm going to give these back to Braden. So the real way would be any kind that. And what I'm doing is when we're touching them, we pet them. Always petting. I would definitely tell you don't do this unless you really have a ridiculously good relationship. This is not a life-threatening type of injury, but it's very, very painful. I've never been bitten. I know somebody that has. Actually, I know a couple of people that have, and it's no joy. But our Gilas and beaded lizards are very, very socialized. Give me something else. Okay, now we're going to look at something, this is not venomous, unlike the beadeds and the Gilas. This is a Cuvier's dwarf caiman, and I've raised Cuvier's dwarf caiman, I've bred them, and this is usually an animal that often is really good to look at, but it's not really good to play with, because they're very, very nervous, they're very wary, and they have ridiculously good teeth. This is the mechanics of a super predator in a little small package. This is literally a miniature crocodile. This is a fairly young female. She's wonderful, but she's totally socialized. So socialized means that she is confident. I am not gonna hurt her. So she doesn't fear for her life. So she is so almost ultimately desensitized by the interactions of me waving my neurotic, hyperactive hands all over the place. Keep my hands down like this, but you want to be aware of that. But she's so desensitized to my movements and stuff like that, and you end up with this wonderful animal. Once again, I put it on the towel so she's not skidding all over the place, and there are ways to manage this animal. So, all right, so she's giving me a little hiss. This means she's just like a little bit worried. So what I do that. Okay, so remember, the autofocus of this camera is really blasting her with all sorts of infrared. So what I do with this is I passively handle her. I'm not restraining her. I very much trust her. She's one of our babies that are just you know, a resident. She'll be here forever, and she's just wonderful. We use her for like educational things. So she knows that people are not going to hurt her. Braden babies this one desperately. She's just wonderful. He's very, very proud of her. She's great, but you can have this wonderful, wonderful relationship. I have my dwarf caiman, my breeders, for over 27 years. And what I did, I'm going to show you, I did as a baby. Come here, Elise. Okay. You want to take her? Who wants to take her? Okay. All right. So here's a little baby. So when they're first born, generally I'm hatching most of these in my hand. So what I do is I tend to desensitize them by touching them, and I do something called nothing is sacred. And that means every single thing. I'm going to pet their face. And just, it's opening its mouth. That's out of fear. That's a fear response. So it's gaping because it's like, oh no, it's a monster. But what happens, successive interactions, weeks and weeks, become months, just constantly doing this. And eventually they realize, wow, you're not going to hurt me. And this little animal has quite a brain. So a lot of these animals that we socialize, we really, really want to rely on good brains. But so if I did this, it's not even biting. See? It's just a fear response. So you just want to be supportive. But remember, every one of these little interactions, which I call a thread of trust, when I'm doing this, she's recording this, and we want her to record it, not freak out, and then she'll download it. So the next time I interact with her, she already has something that's already learned. So this is learned behavior. We're dealing with intelligent animals that are more intelligent than we actually understand. And as the years have gone by, as I've been interacting with these animals, I've been picking up on this and become very intuitive to the nature of these animals. And I'm that little weird kid that played with bugs. I'm still that weird guy that plays with bugs because I'm still fascinated by bugs. But obviously higher end vertebrates like this, I'm just like, they're just, you know, they're wonderful to play with. So you are convincing the animal not to be terrified of you. Remember modes: sleeping, fear mode, I want to eat mode, and And I say thinking, yes, thinking is the most important. This is thinking mode. We want to get them. Really, you notice it with the beadeds, a lot of tongue flicking. That is thinking mode. Right now, we're kind of like, I'm a little bit worried, but this animal, like the bigger one, she didn't have her mouth open, she didn't do anything, very much in thinking mode. So remember your modes, very, very critical for threads of trust. And I'm gonna do one more animal. Who wants to take that? Okay, here's an animal that gets a dreadful reputation. You know, she's got herself under her log. Wow. I'm losing this. Okay. So, this is venomous now. So now we're dealing with the cottonmouth. In this cottonmouth, she's a little afraid of the camera. This cottonmouth, the person who owned her was like, please take her because she's horrible and she's super crazy, aggressive, and twirl around. But even an animal like this animal has an excellent intellect and it's thinking. So if I am thoughtful and I do supportive therapy as far as handling, and I'm watching, the whole time I'm watching its behavior. See the long tongue flick? That is an animal the brain is on, it's recording, and my whole point is she likes to keep tossing herself off the table. And what I want to do is I don't want to be insensitive to her level of fear. So I want to just be kind of fluent and I want to flow. And I'm still watching her tongue. Long tongue flicks. She's thinking, her head's going to come over there in a minute. And an animal like this certainly does not make a good pet. This is venomous. There is a certain, nature. There's people that are venomous keepers that are so consistent with their handling, the use of tools. You have to be thoughtful because, with careless activity and thoughtlessness, an animal like this could bite you, and it's always going to bode terrible for the animal. It's going to make the animal look bad. But the fact is, I'm the stupid human that put myself in harm's way because I want to showboat. I want to show you how cool I am or whatever. But an animal like this I'm totally enamored with is their little brain. And how is this animal not wanting to be defensive? They're known as cottonmouths because they'll open their mouth and they're always going to show the inside of their mouth. And that's a fear response. This table she's really having a hard time.
It's too short.
Yeah, but she's really good. She has done nothing aggressive. And it took me a little bit of time to make friends with her. But once I interacted with her and I didn't do anything to freak her out, she just started settling in, and then I started winning. And now she's, not that I'm a nut job, but you could probably handle this like a corn snake, and she would be wonderful because she's had many, many interactions with myself and Timmy and Johnny and whatnot, and she's very, very sweet. So I wanted to go over some of the socialization. So hopefully there are people that are responding to this bubblegum video because I want to educate you guys and I don't want to leave you guys hanging because I've gone quiet. So I want to show you cool things. I would really appreciate to know what your thoughts are because literally there's going to be no editing on this. This is going to be just pieced together and we're going to put it up on YouTube. But I want to show you these cool animals. So tell me what you guys think. Say goodbye.